Whereas Gen Z, this is a generation of notification. They'll send a smiley, they'll send an emoji, they'll send you a voice note. I don't enjoy that pretty much.
No, yes. Whatever they say, like
One word answer.
one word answer.
Yeah,
So they give one word answer plus one emoji emotion.
exactly.
So do you think is it a right way to exactly, impress or express the people, especially in the professional world, corporates world, or a formal world?
That's where the older teens usually feel that, Gen Z is a generation who are not serious.
What is the psychological conflict between millennials versus Gen Z? Because they always fight, having their views, reviews, opinions, right? Each other. So why there are conflicts actually? We people are not we exactly. I can call my older generations,
Yeah.
our older generation. They were not having this kind of mental disorders issues, psychological issues. If they were having, it was very minor. So don't you think like Gen Zs have been exposed towards all these problems?
Well, in country like India, which is a very conservative country, have started talking about depression, have started talking about trauma, have started talking about how a family's environment is going to affect your child. And these things were very rare back then. I mean, they were taken as a joke.
Bust out sometimes, like emotionally, when they express something, or if you don't understand one time, two times, like in third time they bust out or they get irritated, they blast. What do you think about this exactly?
This generation definitely lacks a lot of patience, and that is because they've got everything pretty quickly.
Right.
Right? I mean, you see them scrolling even on Instagram. I mean, I don't think so their attention span is more than 10 seconds.
The Gen Zs are in quite rush.
Yeah.
So this rush is beneficial or it's absolutely disadvantageful? What are the suggestions for millennials and Gen Zs for building an effective, polite, and meaningful communication and conversation? I was born in 1997. And taking birth in 1997, I am exactly at the border of Gen Z versus millennial. And today there is a huge gap between this Gen Z and millennial. And the gap of, not so much and not so many things, but it's about communication. And for today, this podcast is going to be very, very special for millennials as well as Gen Zs. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have found a very special person who is millennial but talks about Gen Zs. Teaches and educates Gen Zs because she has been an IELTS trainer, she is a corporate trainer, and she is an enthusiastic learner and a teacher. She is Harman Kaur. Welcome to this amazing podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. And I mean, the way you introduced yourself and the topic, I mean, I'm so excited and I'm looking forward to it, the conversation that we're going to have today.
That's amazing. First of all, let me know that how do you feel being millennial?
Well, I feel that I'm blessed to be millennial. The reason is I'm the kind of the person who really enjoys, longer conversations, the depth of conversations. You'll find me writing long paragraphs, whenever I want to pen down something. So I think this is a quality that we millennials have in us. We want a lot of clarity. We want our emotions to perceive exactly the same way that the message has to be delivered. Whereas Gen Z, this is a generation of notification. They'll send a smiley, they'll send an emoji, they'll send you a voice note. I don't enjoy that pretty much, but considering my career, considering the exposure that I've got from last 10 years, I'm getting used to it. But still at heart, I think I truly enjoy being a millennial.
So you enjoy being a millennial, but what do you think about, the conversation of Gen Zs, like as you mentioned and quoted here that, they have started using these emojis, short forms, short text, right? They just, they share each and every emotion with a very short line.
Exactly.
What do you think? Like they don't have the effective or impactful communication. They have shortened their communication. What the shift they are facing now?
See, now this is something that I would say is a very wide misconception that most of the millennials or the older generation have about Gen Z. I do corporate trainings. I need managers. So they're like, ma'am, these new kids, they don't know how to talk. They don't come up with clarity. I mean, they don't even nod on whatever we download to them. But what I've seen in my academic trainings, Gen Z, basically, they do not lack depth, or it's not like they cannot communicate. they were brought up in a conditioning where, they've started consuming information pretty quick. You see, I mean, they take their information from a 15 to 30 seconds of reel, from a tweet, from a meme. That's their way of expression, right? In most of my classroom experiences, they'll answer in one word. Okay. So they don't lack depth. It's not like, they cannot talk in, descriptive manner. But most of my students, the first question I'll ask them, they'll answer in one word. Then you need to probe them. The reason is, they've been conditioned to answer in a very short span. And they'll directly come to the point. So they might say, what's your favorite color? So they might say white. That's it. Now, why white? Then they come into details that, I really like white because it is a very fresh color or an optimistic color. So I do not agree when, we see most of the trolls about Gen Z that, they lack depth or intelligence. No, that's not true. They can speak, but all they need is, they need more probing. Okay, we need to bring them into a structured manner. And it's all because of technology. It's all because of the environment that their language has got. I mean, just imagine at 97, they've been born after 97. So the internet was, booming at that point. They have, this is a generation which is more interested in likes and comments and, followers. Whereas we sat through detailed, discussions. We were the generation where, we sat for 2 hours only discussing an assignment.
Right.
And here, they'll simply do it in 10 minutes. And they don't need anyone to discuss. So the social skills have, I would say, gone down a lot. But I've seen many examples where, even at the age of 20 or 21, they'll come with such a sorted response that we at 30, 35 lack that kind of maturity. And that is a first-hand experience that I've, had with Gen Z.
So like there are more than 3,000 emojis have been, introduced by the social media's platforms. And so, like you said, when you ask that, have you taken breakfast? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Can you achieve your goal? No. Yes. Whatever they say, like
One word answer.
One word answer.
Yeah,
So they give one word answer plus one emoji emotion.
exactly.
So do you think is it a right way to exactly, impress or express the people, especially in the professional world, corporates world, or a formal world?
I mean, this is something which is very clear. Obviously, it's not the right way of expressing yourself when it comes to your workplace, right? You might do it in your relationships, you might do it with your friends, you might do it with your family also. But when it comes to corporate, right? Because you are going to report to people who are from a different generation. They expect a lot of clarity. They expect assurance from your end. Just sending them a voice note or just sending them, okay or noted is not going to give them that kind of assurance. And that's where the older teens usually feel that, Gen Z is a generation who are not serious. They're not serious. It's just, that's their way of expressing themselves, right? I mean, they can relate to a meme more than they relate to their friends.
Right.
So that's the difference.
What is the psychological conflict between millennials versus Gen Z? Because they always fight having their views, reviews, opinions, right? And their mindset especially. So I think they always have the conflicts each other. So why there are conflicts actually?
One thing that I've noticed in my experience being a millennial, back when I was a student or I was in my growing years, so, we were trained in such a manner that we were not allowed to express ourselves very openly.
Okay.
We haven't heard about words like anxiety or depression till 25, 26. But today, if you see, this is a generation that talks about their emotional well-being. They talk about how do they feel emotionally very confidently. I see students in my class talking about trauma. Okay, I see students in my class talking about emotional baggage. I see students talking about anxiety. Okay, and when I take myself back, while I was, when I was their age, I don't think so I would be able to do that. Because we were taught to suppress our emotions. Now that, we were taught to suppress our emotions, we are in a misconception that we were very strong. We never spoke about depression. And now when this generation would come up and say, there's a lot of workload or I'm burnout, so the older generation might feel they're very sensitive. Inse nahi ho paega. We might see the reels and everything, right? So that is the difference. I think that is a psychological impact.
Okay, I just, you're talking about this, that's absolutely fine. As you quoted about like now they talk about the trauma, they talk about stress, anxiety, depression. But what about the shift, the exactly, trigger that now they are more suffering from this anxiety space, we people, or not we exactly, I can call my older generations,
Yeah.
our older generation, they were not having this kind of, mental disorders issues, psychological issues. If they were having, it was very minor. So don't you think like Gen Zs have been exposed towards all these problems?
I would say that totally makes a lot of sense, right? Because as I told you, we were taught to suppress our emotions, so we somehow got trained with it. We didn't take these things, pretty seriously. But like, just imagine you have a friend circle of 5 people. You see 3 people who are having trauma, and even the slightest, emotional unrest is going to make you feel like I have a trauma. Why? Because your friends are going through it. Right. I mean, that's with every generation. Right. It's with every generation. Whatever is at its peak at that particular point, every generation have their own pros and cons, right? We have our own exposure. We have our own conditioning. So in this generation, yes, I mean, it's pretty unfortunate, but yes, they're dealing with a lot of mental issues. And when I say mental issues, one thing that I'm really happy about, because I'm a kind of a person who, supports a lot of awareness when it comes to, mental health of a person. So I think it's a very good shift. People in country like India, which is a very conservative country, have started talking about depression, have started talking about trauma, have started talking about how a family's environment is going to affect your child. And these things were very rare back then. I mean, they were taken as a joke, right? I do not recall me or any of my sibling or my cousin or my friends talking about what they felt when they were bullied in school. But today, you see, this generation is pretty open about it. They talk about it. They want to bring that change.
Right.
And that is one thing that I really like about them.
Do you not think that, Gen Zs bust out sometimes, like, emotionally, when they express something, or if you don't understand one time, 2 times, like in third time they bust out or they get irritated, they blast. What do you think about this exactly?
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, this is a generation that lacks a lot of patience, right? As I told you, I mean, whenever I take a session, okay, and let's say I've had an activity in the class, I mean, they won't even give me time to assess their personality and give them feedback. Right after the session, they'll follow me in the lobby and they'll ask for feedback. So this generation definitely lacks a lot of patience, and that is because they've got everything pretty quickly.
Right.
Right? I mean, you see them scrolling even on Instagram. I mean, I don't think so their attention span is more than 10 seconds. If the first 10 seconds is going to excite them, they're going to watch it or they're simply going to scroll it.
Right.
Same goes for the sessions. I mean, people like us who are into communication training, and if our audience is Gen Z, so we need to break points. We need to add activities. We need to add humor so that we have their attention. Whereas in corporate trainings, I know it's going to be, a lot of give and take. There's going to be a lot of participation. We are going to get into details. But with younger people, with Gen Z, you cannot expect that kind of participation. Give them activities, they'll participate. First, let them participate, then teach them that this is what is called as resilience, they'll understand it. But when it comes to corporate training, first we'll talk about resilience, we'll talk about our own experiences. So that's done in an old school manner.
So what are your suggestions for those teachers, coaches, trainers who teach or who deal with Gen Zs? Because what should they take care of? They should conduct more activities, more fun, more humor. What should they do in the classrooms or classes?
See, according to my experience, what I've seen is even I used to do things in a very set manner before because I believed what we were taught and we did fine. Okay, I mean, it's not like I'm trained into English or into communication specifically, but if I am taking classes today, that means, I've done fine. Right. So I thought of mirroring the same thing. I thought of using the same, ideologies or agenda with younger students. And trust me, I mean, the first 3-4 months, I got to know that, okay, this is not working.
Oh.
And then I realized that, communication again is not about perfect English. It is not about perfect vocabulary, but it is about the human side of soft skills. Now, what is the human side of soft skills? It's empathy, it's clarity, right? It's how do you structure your thoughts, right? It's about how do you break down your point so that you don't have to repeat it again and again. Now, this comes by understanding your audience. If my audience is Gen Z, I'm going to understand their slangs. I'm going to understand what kind of environment do they get. And I'm going to use the same thing in order to explain it to them.
Right.
I think that is what a mentor, a coach, or a teacher can do. If I do the same thing that I was taught in a way, it's not going to help me. I need to understand my audience first, right? So you'll see me that, I've started expressing myself a lot on social media. Millennials don't do that. I still remember, I mean, when we started using Facebook, it was just to, have be in touch with your friends or just share an update that I've completed this degree. I'm watching this movie with these friends. But today, they use their social media as their language of expression. What do they support? Right? What do they like? What are they going through? So social media talks a lot about them. So I started doing the same thing. And now I get them in a more better manner, I suppose. And in most of my classes, yes, my students, they love me. Because, they feel that, more or less, this trainer is more like us. She understands us. Then they enjoy learning.
So you are more chill.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Interesting, because you are from Khati Piti Khandan.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I think some cases I have seen that Gen Zs also miss the weightage in their talks and conversation. They miss in depth. They miss the knowledge, information. What's your take on this? They are so light and they feel good in being light.
Exactly. I mean, they take it as a pride,
Yes.
We are very authentic, I am one of my kind. That is true. And I've seen when we talk about weight, okay, how do you add weight to your statement? You talk about your experience, you talk about examples, right? Now, the thing is, what I've seen in universities, I've worked with pretty good universities in the last 3-4 years. Students, they have a same group of friends. Okay, let's say I'm in first year. I've made 4 friends. I'll stay with these 4 friends till my last year, and I'll call them my homies. Okay, so let's say everyone is from the same state, right? So what this person has done is he's confined himself in terms of exposure culturally, right? I remember, I mean, I studied in Pune. I'm from Pune University, and Pune obviously is the hub of education. We used to have students from every state of the country. And it's not like, I want to be friends with 1 or 2 or 3 people only. Today, if I'm sitting with someone, tomorrow I'll be sitting with someone else who's from, let's say, Andhra Pradesh. Then I'll be sitting with someone who's from Northeast. Then I'll be sitting with someone who's from Rajasthan. Now, this again, gave a lot of information which we didn't realize back then. Right? That when I was talking to them, when we were striking conversation, we were actually learning about culture, about state, about examples, right? Today, when I stand in class and I give examples about my friends, I give examples about what I've, experienced back in universities. So I get questions like, ma'am, how do you know so much? Have you traveled, a country like, have you been pan-India? I was like, no, it's all because of the friends. It's all because of the communication that I enjoyed. I mean, I see you sitting every day with the same bunch of friends. What are you going to learn about them? At a point, it's going to get all mundane and boring. So if today you're sitting with this fellow, tomorrow you sit with that fellow, next day you sit with someone else, you talk to them and you get to know a lot. So I think that is why the exposure is not there. Examples are not there. Right? And one more point that you've mentioned is, they're not able to express that.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not able to express themselves because you'll see, again, it's about how the information was downloaded to them. Right? Even in the universities today, it's, everything is on the WhatsApp group. You don't need to walk to your professor and talk about it. You will get notifications on the group. You'll get notifications on your mail. There is a WhatsApp group for everything. So I call this the generation of typing rather than the generation of talking. And back then, while we were students, we had to go and talk to a professor. That itself used to give us a tiny dose of confidence with every interaction that I can talk to my professor. You see them today, their body language, they look down, they look here and there. It's because they've not got that exposure.
I have 2 complaints, right? Because if we talk about the older generation, like aunties and uncles, they over-exaggerate, they over-talk, they over-chit-chat, they sit and just pass their 4 to 5 hours time, right? So we have this complaint to them. And we have one more complaint to the Gen Zs, like, they're logged in a cage in a room. They keep swiping their phone for 6 hours, 8 hours. And they don't talk to their parents. Parents also come to us in Happiness Institute, they complain as well. I want to understand who is right or they both are wrong.
Technically, if I talk out of my experience, right, because me being from a generation which has experienced both the things, right, like my parents, okay, obviously they over-exaggerate. They are overly expressive. They might talk about the same thing again and again. And then I have my younger siblings, okay, so typical Gen Z. They want them to reach to the point as quick as possible because they have, 10 other things to do. So when this thing is not happening, they, the Gen Z might get a little, they might get a little anxious and they might just want to, come out of the conversation. Whereas the older generation might feel that they're not serious, they're not listening, they don't respect us. I mean, it can even go to that extent. But what I've seen, experienced, or even seen from far is that both of them are wrong. Right? Yes, obviously.
So who is right? We are right.
Yeah, millennials are right for sure. So I believe it's about, understanding that you don't need to overexpress because, I mean, take anyone today, nobody's interested in paragraphs.
Right.
Right? If I'm talking about how am I feeling today in a paragraph of 115 words and simply giving you 4 emojis that how my day started and how my day end, I think both are at a very extreme level, For people like us who really enjoy, conversation, who really enjoy chatting, would neither fall for both, right? So I think a perfect balance has to be understood. I mean, even the Gen Z need to understand that, this is how their parents were basically conditioned. Okay, they are going to talk in detail. They might talk about something which is not making any sense to you at all, but the least you can do is give them attention.
That's true. Now, let's talk about, as you said that they want everything in a quick or short span of time, right? So, and is it a right mindset or they don't understand that what is the exact right time of consumption for this particular goal or vision? In case they want to reach to USA for their study abroad and they need to crack TOEFL, IELTS, PT, OET. And even that into very rush, I want to go USA, why you don't send me? Why can't I go there? My friend has gone there. Why this rush and how this rush is affecting to the mental ability and attitude of Gen Zs?
Exactly. Now, again, coming to the previous discussion that we had, the older generations, they were meant to wait for certain things. Even getting a feedback from a professor would take a week, right, till the next lecture, right? So we have endured that kind of patience. We know how to wait for things.
Right.
Now, coming to this generation, right from their growing years, they've seen everything happening very quick, right? I mean, they don't even now, go to a restaurant or wait for their order. They have it, delivered at their doorstep.
Right.
So it's because of the technology. It's about how fast the world is changing.
Right.
And so is the mindset. Okay. This generation definitely lacks a lot of patience. Now, because they lack patience, they have very high expectations from their end. And then, they fail miserably. They get into all, anxiety and depression. And then they talk about trauma. Then they talk about, failing miserably. But I think they should learn how to be more patient. And, not everything happens in a day. Rome was not built in a day, right? So they need to understand that. But it's because of the social and technological environment that they've got. Things are pretty quick today.
So now, see, I want to understand. Yeah, I was talking about the rush, right? So I asked my question and you talked about it. Like the Gen Zs are in quite rush.
Yeah.
So this rush is beneficial or it's absolutely disadvantageful?
I think answering this question to an extreme end, won't be justified because I see students at 21 having their own forms. So that was a result of the rush. The hunger for success of doing something, right? And I see students at 27, 28 struggling for that one call or having that, dream company and doing nothing, but I want to work with this company only. So I see them pretty depressed or anxious about their career. So it totally depends on how do you take things. And I think this is for every generation. It's not just for Gen Z, it is for millennials and even the older generations that we see. The only thing you need to understand, and which I feel lacks a lot in both the generations, is, the personal introspection.
Okay.
You ask them about their strength and weakness, they don't even, they won't even think. They'll chat GPT. They'll ask chat GPT, what are my strengths and weaknesses? A millennial might give it a little thought and come up with a broken answer because obviously that introspection is not there.
Right.
We were never taught to analyze ourselves. We were never taught to sit, have a diary and write down about our experiences so that we know what qualities do we have. Now, this is where most of the people fail in their expression of personality. I say interviews or jobs are nothing when it comes to technical. Companies are willing to invest in you. They're willing to train you. And they'll train you, right? They have people for it. But they're looking for, someone who has a learning personality, someone who has a particular set of qualities in them.
Right.
You might have those qualities, but because you never sat with yourself, because you don't have that, introspection on your personality.
Sure.
You might not know that I'm a very resilient person.
Right.
You might not know that I'm a kind of a person who has a knack for details, or I always seek perfection. And it's not like somebody's going to tell you. You need to see from your experiences that, how do I behave socially? How do I behave when I get a task? And then you get to know that what attitude, what are your strengths, or what are your weaknesses. This is the major thing. This is a major thing that students need to work on.
You quoted just about ChatGPT, and I think that today's generation are so much dependent on ChatGPT, like each and everything. Even what should I eat? What should I do? Right, I'm facing this issue. What should I? A lot of things they ask from the ChatGPT. Even for learning English, they go with the ChatGPT. So, do you not think that this generation or this Gen Z is just connected to only the medium of this telephonic things or this social media things? They don't even have a touch with the human bodies.
I would say that is completely true, because I have seen in my experience also when I take corporate trainings. I mean, people willingly would drop their phone outside the training room and they'll sit for training because they want to enjoy those conversations, because they're from the older generation, right? They want to do something out of the box. They want to think, they want to enjoy or have an undivided attention towards the trainer or towards the program. But when it comes to the younger generation, Gen Z, phones are allowed in class room, right? There are no strict rules in the university also. And every time that they want to use the phone, there's always going to be an excuse of, ma'am, there's a notification from the mentor or something. So yes, they have that privilege of using their phones. Now, the dependency on ChatGPT is, or any other AI tool, is pretty high. And you would see that even in certain assessments or assignment, they have an instruction that you can use AI, okay? But only for guidance. Now, this is what they're not focusing on. Okay. I use ChatGPT.
Okay,
Yeah.
a lot.
I would say yes, I use ChatGPT a lot. But when I use ChatGPT, my approach is slightly different. I'll put my question, I'll put a prompt, I'll read what response I have, I'll give a thought over it. I'll filter the information that I need or something that I would be able to deliver. And then I'll add something of my own so that there's a personalized touch.
Right.
It should not feel like something which is just taken from ChatGPT, and then I'll deliver it.
Right.
Now, this is something where you're using AI for benefit, for advantage. It complements you, right? But if I just put a prompt, okay, and I do rote learning, okay, now I'm taking the session, I'm training these students from last 7 days, and on the 8th day, an average student comes up with a very flowery and a fancy answer. I know where the answer has been taken from, right? So yes, using AI is a great thing, but use it, according to your caliber of delivery.
Right.
So they fail that, I've seen students, using words like, I am meticulously observant when it comes to things. And if you ask the meaning of meticulous, they won't know it. Now, this is what is happening. So don't just copy paste it, but see if you understand it, filter it out, add your own content, and then deliver. Because ChatGPT is for your convenience.
You said a very good point that they use meticulous or audacious and they don't know the meaning of this. Just they use. And most of the times I've also seen in my classes, like, they use the word. So what's the meaning of the word you said? I'm sorry, sir, I don't know. Just I said. So I think there is a point of they're missing knowledge. They're missing information because they are with the upper layer only. They don't break that layer and they don't dive into depth.
Exactly.
Now I'm shifting towards what about the thought process? What about the psychological process, psychic process of between millennials and Gen Z? Who are stronger?
I would say that, again, this is something which could be debatable, but I would say when it comes to psychological process or mindset of a person, I think millennials still have a better and a stronger mindset.
But then again, they're orthodox too?
Orthodox in terms of certain structure, hierarchy, yes. They want their things to be done in a specific manner. Okay, they would really not like, an intern coming up to them every now and then or sending them memes or writing mails in one line. They're not going to entertain it, right? So yes, they might be a little orthodox in this manner, but when it comes to, as you said, it's just on the surface or it is something in detail.
Right.
So when we talk about depth, when we talk about details, when we talk about something that makes sense, yes, millennials have a stronger hand in it, because for Gen Z, it's just getting work done, okay? I was supposed to do this work. Okay, I need to do it in 10 minutes. अब इससे मैंने कुछ सीखा या नहीं सीखा है is not that important for them. It's like they just want to go and party.
And Gen Z versus millennials, a lot of things, a lot of, points are there, arguments are there, debates are there. But now again, who is 50 plus right and who is 50 plus wrong?
Okay, that's a very interesting question because what I've seen in life, and it's not just about communication. Every person has their own side, right? Same goes for communication difference or how communication has evolved from the last 20-25 years. So I won't say that millennials are more than 50% right, or I won't say Gen Zs are more than 50% right, because both the generations have their own kind of conditioning and exposure that they've got. But when it comes to workplace, when it comes to formal conversations, I think yes, millennials have an upper hand because they've endured a lot. Okay, they understand the process. They understand the value of hard work. They understand the value of waiting. They understand how communication can do wonders. They understand why clarity is much more important. Right. But if we talk about creativity, if we talk about innovation, if we talk about coming with a breakthrough idea, thinking out of the box, then definitely Gen Z have an upper hand because they have a very fresh mind, okay? They were not bound to do things in a particular manner. They were never structured. They'll directly come to the point. They are not going to waste a lot of time, okay? They are going to use their time very wisely, okay? Like for millennials, it's like 9-hour shift, so we need to work 9 hours and they don't mind working 11 hours also. But for Gen Z, if you see, it's 9-hour shift. I need to do 10 tasks. If I'm able to do 10 tasks in 4 hours, I should be free for the day. So would you say, that's wrong? No, because the work is done at the end of the day, right? So they have different approach. They have different priorities. But when both of these generations are brought together to work in the same environment, that's where misunderstandings usually happen. When I take corporate trainings and when I talk to people from older teams, so if you ask them, are they doing their job? So they'll say, yeah, they're doing their job, but they don't know how to, actually follow the structure or hierarchy. So I think both the generations need to adapt a little bit, change a little bit according to the context.
So who is quick to change?
Who's quick to change? I think millennials. We have changed a lot. We've seen a lot of changes during our growing years. We've seen things changing and we have adapted it. And I think they're better at adapting things as compared to Gen Z. You'll see them in a job hopping culture. If they feel vibe nahi mil rahi hai, no, I'm not having good vibe about it, they'll simply change their.
What is this vibe wala point exactly? Vibe nahi mil rahi hai. So I think every next person, there is a complaint that I don't match the vibes. So I don't want to talk actually. That's why I want to go. What do you think about this vibe match?
I think the reason vibe nahi mil rahi or what actually the vibe is, Gen Z, they have a lot of privilege. They have a lot of options. They live in a world of options, right? They have the virtual world. They have so many followers. They have people to talk to, right? They've already kept themselves in a position where, maybe their parents or their relatives might feel actually happy if they ever talk to them, right? So they have a lot of options when they want to talk, right? So, they are pretty quick at changing people, okay? I'll talk to you for like one day, half day, I'll see what kind of a person you are. If I think that, no, we don't have that vibe, I'll move to another person and I'll move to the third person. But millennials basically were brought up in a very socially trained environment. There was nothing like vibe nahi mil rahi. You go to a tuition, you go to that tuition for one complete year. And you cannot say to your parents that, the teacher is strict or, I don't understand. No, they decided for you. So you adapt, you endure. You were made quite resilient to adapt those changes. Whereas today you see a child crying 2 days consequently and you change the tuition. So the options, right? The change. So I feel that this is the reason why vibe has come into existence and why they talk about vibe a lot. Even with my experience, as I told you, when I enter the class, I take, one session. I'll be friendly to them, but I know where to, pull certain things out. So I'll make sure that the work is done, but I might do it in an approach that they enjoy.
Right.
Because I'm a kind of a person who believes that value should be added, okay? And you cannot always do it, being strict.
Right.
Right? Sometimes you need to understand your audience. And I see students, I mean, they asking me every now and then when they, encounter me in the university, ma'am, would we have your session again? Would we have your session again? I think that is very fulfilling as a trainer. I mean, you really enjoy that, they're learning or they look forward to your sessions. So the reason is again adaptability.
That's
For me,
amazing. That's
being a
amazing.
millennial, again,
So, what 5 compliments you would like to give to millennials, and what 5 compliments you would like to give to Gen Zs who are watching you right now?
Okay. When it comes to millennials, I think millennials are people who have endured a lot. Okay. So, endurance, second is patience. We have a lot of patience. We can wait for things. We don't believe in miracles. We understand things don't happen overnight. The third, I believe, is we're very structured. Okay. I mean, we're not a generation who would, confine everything to an emoji. No, we want to talk. We want to express. Maybe we didn't get to do that.
Right.
Right. So we really enjoy that. Fourth, I believe, is it's not a compliment, but we are a generation that have suppressed our emotions a lot. Emotionally, I mean, we are drained out, but we don't show that because we're not that emotionally aware. But yes, we've seen a lot.
Right.
Right. And last, I would say is millennials. Yeah, they're homies. They are, pretty calm people. Yeah, you won't find them, bursting out very quick or talking or complaining about burnouts.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, what about Gen Zs?
Gen Z. Gen Z, I believe, very authentic, okay, very creative, very quick. They want everything very fast. Very, very expressive.
Very
When they want to talk about their emotions, when they want to talk about their personality, they're very expressive. And last, I would say they are pretty much aware, not only emotionally, but about everything that is around them. Because they have that access to the information that we didn't had back then, right? We had limited data and everything. We just started using internet. But today, whatever they're eating, whatever they're doing, they'll have information about it. Okay, if they are feeling something, they quickly, get an access to information that, okay, what I'm feeling right now is anxiety.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If they want to have something in dinner and lunch, they'll know what is a calorie count. Whereas millennials don't bother. They just want to, have something. So I think they're very aware in everything, in fitness, in spirituality, in whatever they're learning, in their career, in their emotions. So very aware generation.
Right.
Yeah.
What are the 5 suggestions for millennials, and what are the 5 suggestions for Gen Zs?
Okay. The first suggestion that I would like to give to millennials is that, yes, you have endured a lot. You have the very right mindset, but learn how to, listen to the younger generation also. Just because the older teens never listened to you or never heard you doesn't mean that, you reflect the same thing to the younger generation.
Right.
You need to understand that, how to get your job done, especially for the managers who are at a managerial level right now and are dealing with Gen Z subordinates or team. Learn how to listen. You'll definitely find that spark in them. Okay, you just need to be patient with them.
Right.
Again, the second suggestion that I would give to millennials would be in terms of being more expressive. Okay, we totally understand you cannot change right now in mid-30s or 40s. That's not possible. But still, learn how to speak from the younger generation. There's no harm, right? You can say how they are so expressive and they can talk about what they're feeling. You can do the same thing.
Right.
Okay, you don't always have to have that stern face.
Right.
So that would be the second suggestion. Third suggestion I would say is, if you see millennials, if you see their pastime activities, the same things. They'll go sit in the bar, they'll enjoy drinks, okay, they'll meet their friends, that's it. Whereas if you see Gen Z, so, they have come up with so many things. I mean, they even have coffee rave parties, right? So they have hiking groups, right? So they have community where, they just go and sit and play Tombola or Bingo or Uno, right? So even you can enjoy these things and it's going to put you at ease.
Lambola is quite interesting.
It does. So yes, I mean, they can change the range of pastime activities that they have and they'll be able to connect with Gen Zs more. Now spend time with them. Be a little sensitive about the younger generation. So I think, yeah, these would be the
So, what are the 5 suggestions for Gen Zs?
Gen Z. Gen Z, I believe, need to learn just one thing, and that is patience.
Patience.
They lack patience. They also need to learn how to express themselves in a detailed manner, and they need to come out of that emoji or a virtual world, and they need to learn how to have face-to-face conversation. They'll do great when they're typing because they always have that privilege of, editing it, rephrasing it, thinking before replying, or using ChatGPT. But if they are into one-to-one conversation, you'll find them blank. You won't even believe this is the same person you've been talking to since last 1 month, right? Because again, they enjoy that convenience.
True.
So they need to come out of that comfort zone. That is really very important.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that, do not chat or do not use ChatGPT or other AI tools. But what I'm saying is learn how to speak in person.
Right.
That's very important. You cannot escape it.
Right.
Right? Tomorrow you're going to be hired. Tomorrow you're going to start your business. You're going to start a family. You need to learn how to communicate face to face. You need to learn how to express yourself without emojis, without memes. Yeah, that is one thing. Rest, I think both the generations. No. I mean, Gen Z has seen a lot, and I think I can club everything into these 2 points.
The last question. What are the suggestions for millennials and Gen Zs for building an effective, polite, and meaningful communication and conversation?
Okay. I think one thing that again comes out of my own experience, as I've told you that, for the first 3 months, even I found it very difficult. I was literally walking on eggshells dealing with Gen Z. But when I got to know, what exactly is missing, so I tailored my approach. Okay. And I've seen students also going extra mile only to make sure that the assignment that I've given to them is completed. So efforts is something which are required from both the ends.
Okay.
But you being someone from an older generation, you being someone who's more patient or resilient can, give it a first try, right? So if I'm a manager and I have a team of Gen Z, so before even starting on a project, I would sit with them, okay? I would have a very small informal meeting with them, and I would like to understand them.
Right.
I would like them to have a very raw and candid conversation on their aspirations or why they are here. Okay, what do they think about the project? That would give me a very deep insight on each one of them or each one of their personalities. And that would never, give me second thoughts about whether this person is serious or not, right? Because once you understand the generation, once you see what their approach is like, once you set certain rules, that okay, we won't be talking in memes, okay, I'm expecting mails.
Right.
If you cannot write 2 paragraphs, at least a paragraph, make sure it's formal because it's going to be escalated tomorrow. It's going to be into records. So that is going to, I think, elevate a very, very, I would say, large chance of having misunderstanding in between, both the generations.
Right.
Yeah.
So you deal with corporate training with the millennials, and you also teach or train Gen Zs too, students too, right?
Training, yeah.
So I want to understand that, where do you get more compliments? Like, oh, Harman Kaur is an amazing, So where is the more appreciation, more compliment?
I think it's usually with Gen Z, and the reason is, as I told you, this is a generation of expressions, right? They express themselves like no other generation has done so far, right? I mean, even if they're talking about their personality, what do they like? If they're talking, you see their social media handle, you'll see whatever they're sharing is all about them.
Right.
So if they really like my session, they would, come up to me and they would tell me that, ma'am, we really enjoy your session, the examples, exposure, they'll come up with questions and everything. So I think, yes, I've got a lot of compliments when I'm at university and when I'm training them or when I do activities with them. Because I make sure that even I participate with them, only then, you can have that kind of participation. Otherwise, they usually hide their face for activities. But when it comes to corporate training, so even if, somebody has enjoyed the training, so they'll simply say, yeah, it was a nice session. They really enjoyed it, right? So 2 lines. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes to emotions, Gen Zs are able to express a lot better. But when it comes to clarity, depth, and formally, okay, because again, we were taught only to express formally, talk about studies, talk about your hobbies, talk about your career goals, right? But this is a generation that can talk about what do I like, what do I follow, what is the content that I like, what am I feeling right now?
Right.
So they're more emotionally aware and we are more formally aware.
Formally aware.
So that is the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was actually, amazing podcast and talk and conversation that you did about Gen Z versus millennials, right? So I think it was a blame game for both.
Yeah, I am a bit neutral.
Neutral, right?
And I believe, like, I have adapted myself to, communicate in a manner where Gen Zs can get me and to, keep up my pace with millennials also. So that is why I've not given a single answer which would be extremely in favor of Gen Z or millennials, because I believe both the generations, they're beautiful people. All they need to do is they just need to adapt